Hi, I'm Durand. This is the Dragongators series, Book 1, Revenge of the Dragongators. Copyright 2015, written by eNKay Durand. Release date is Halloween. Chapter 1. If any of the people remembered the story, they would have recognized that the recent events were kindred to what happened during the last war. The war became divided into sanctions: egocentris and ecocentris. The movement happened so quickly that other political parties were overrun and disbanded. As for religious groups, most went into hiding, while the groups which did not hide were annihilated. Like in ancient times, torture, book burnings, and punishments of heresy were controlled by the two governments, with neither showing any mercy. The Oceania War, considered by many to be the final stage of all wars within the human race. Every man, woman, or child on earth was forced to be on one side of the war or the other. Each side's motto was, "If you are not for us, then you are against us," and they upheld their motto by publicly executing anyone who tried to remain neutral to their objective. The war had been raging between the two monetary powers for over 6 years, and as a result, over 2/3 of the world's population of humans had died. Government scientists from both sides, since the beginning of the war, had the mission of creating the ultimate genetic fighting machine in which their government could use to annihilate their opponent to win the war. Thus, they experimented by splicing together DNA from a plurality of animals and humans to achieve their goals. After what many scientists and government officials considered failed experiments, as mutations were unusable or uncontrollable, both sides finally released their successful mutant creations against each other. Once these mutants were released, both monetary powers held their breaths in hopes that they would win this battle of the mutant genetic killing machines, with the loss of human life kept to a minimum. Problems arose quickly when the mutants, once left to their own devices, could not be controlled by either faction. The creatures only recognized their own species as friends, and maimed or killed all else in their path. However, there was one exception: the creatures that roamed both the lands and waters. Those creatures, like human ancestors, learned and grew intellectually as they gained experience and knowledge. The scientists believed that these intellectual mutants had thought that the other animals were lesser creatures and possibly used them only as a food source. As the intellectual mutants targeted their closest threat, other species of intellectual mutants, and humans. Though it seemed like a plausible theory, the scientists could not see any conclusive evidence to back up their hypothesis. It became vivid to both economic powers that the release and creation of the mutants was a gaffe. In order to counteract the attacks of the intellectual mutants, both political parties set aside their pursuit for world domination and teamed together to declare war on the intellectual mutants they created, formulating a program to lure any remaining intellectual mutant armies together, since each side had produced different species of intellectual mutants. All went as planned, as the mutants attacked each other, and the few remaining intellectual mutants were methodically hunted down by the military special forces units and destroyed. All units were accounted for but one, the one unit sent to hunt the Dragongators. Though few noticed, as the egocentris and ecocentris both worked out the remaining political differences, now in political agreement, economic experts and socialists met together from across the globe. Debates arose on whether it was feasible to try to rebuild the world as it once was, as most of modern technology had been wiped away. The political powers agreed that humans should learn to live off the land and not try to control it. There would still be electricity powered by wind and water. As for vehicles, most are converted to electric, solar, or air, though some of the larger vehicles would still be powered by petrol. All citizens had to fill out government permission forms to request or keep any vehicle. The new government called themselves the Ecocentris, and the New World continents, Ecogo. People began to live in small villages or towns scattered throughout the lands, producing or trading for what they needed. This type of lifestyle change created a harmony across the world. Each village elected their own magistrate to act as council, the law, and governor, as needed in the village. The magistrate's decisions were the law and could only be overturned by public vote. The few people who refused to abide by the magistrate's laws found themselves cast out by the villages into the wilderness to fend for themselves against lesser mutants, or assigned to work duty. The work duty was supervised by the magistrate, and often the jobs were tedious and dangerous. 100 years passed, and eNKay had evolved and thrived. Simplicity still ruled. People enjoyed their simple life, smaller communities, a chance to support themselves and live off the land, either by hunting, farming, and or bartering. Recently, there have been brutal attacks in the dead of the night on many ocean villages. The nullification of the villages and people caused many people to flee from other oceanside villages to the deeper inland villages for protection and safety. People would often say to their children, "The Dragongators will get you if you don't behave." Many people believing Dragongators were just a myth to scare and threaten children, though little did they know just how wrong they were.